Hey YouTube, I'm Dadix, and this is my first video. Welcome in. Before we get started with this video, I just wanted to give a little bit of a spoiler warning. I won't be getting too into any plot elements for the following, but we'll be showing some late game gameplay, so if you'd like to stay as blind as possible, please heed this warning. The games we'll be discussing and showing are Lies of P, the Kingdom Hearts series, and Celeste. You have been warned, so let's go ahead and get this started. So, I played Lies of P. And it was definitely a new experience for me. Now, I don't normally play Soulslike games, and it's not because I can't, but because I never really saw the point in playing these notoriously difficult games. In fact, some of my proudest accomplishments up until now has honestly been between beating the Valkyries and Berserkers in the new God of War games, beating Sifu, which was pretty dope, playing through all of the Kingdom Hearts Final Mix games on critical, grounded Last of Us playthroughs, surviving Cuphead with my friend, and then there's this. Yes, I know it's not supposed to be that hard, but hear me out. This is Celeste after all, which is like notoriously difficult, right? So give me some grace, please. While these games may have some elements from Souls-like games, they are far from the real thing. Still, I would say that these accomplishments qualify me as a pretty competent gamer. So naturally, I decided to try one of the most punishing genres in gaming. Great idea, right? And if you somehow don't know about Lies of P, it's a Souls-like developed by Neo, a South Korean studio, and a surprisingly dark retelling of Pinocchio. You've got Pinocchio, Geppetto, Jiminy, the Blue Fairy, all the classics, but all twisted into this grim gothic setting where the city is collapsed under a puppet uprising and other things I won't even try to explain right now. And instead of telling the truth being what makes Pinocchio more human, here it's actually lying. Yeah, it gets a bit weird and I don't want to get too into spoilers, but the important part isn't just the story that's honestly amazing, it's how the game plays. Because under all of that is one of the most deliberate and punishing approaches to difficulty that I've personally experienced. And while I've never considered myself a quote unquote god gamer, I definitely think I'm at least marginally better than your average gamer. At least I would hope so, based off how many games I've put myself through. Now, with all of that out of the way, and before we get to the main course, I'd like to start on the why. So, why Lies of P? Well, last year I decided to get through all of Kingdom Hearts on critical. Why did I do this? Well, because I love the games, obviously. But no, seriously, I do love the games. Yes, even re Chain of Memory. And maybe it's nostalgia, maybe it's the convoluted quantum physics level story, or maybe it's the banger soundtrack. But in reality, I had never played Kingdom Hearts 3. Despite playing most of the games in the series, and since before Kingdom Hearts 3 was even released, I had promised myself to play through the entire series before getting to Kingdom Hearts 3. And that was 7 years ago. And now we're waiting again on Kingdom Hearts 4. Well, with these bulletproof qualifications out of the way, let's turn our attention over to Lies of P, aka my first Souls-like, and also the reason my blood pressure is so fucking high. Now, to get this video really started, what made Lies of P so fun despite the difficulty was all in its approach to difficulty. Here, failure feels like a challenge to your skill, making it more of a learning experience as opposed to frustrating and unfair. Given the games that led me here, I made a huge realization that may or may not sound obvious, that being that there's a huge difference between hard games and deliberately hard games. And Lies of P feels fair in a way that makes it more enjoyable, and that led me to an arguably more controversial take. I truly believe that Kingdom Hearts Critical Mode as a series is among the hardest games that I've ever played. Harder than The Last of Us, harder than Sifu, than Celeste, and yes, even harder than Lies of P. Yes, this game about Disney characters crossing over into anime
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
has taken more years off my life than any of those aforementioned games, and I'll die on this hill. Why? Because I can at least learn to deal with this. Oh, here you go. Nice! But this was just unfair. In Kingdom Hearts, winning sometimes felt like I just got lucky, while in Lies of P, losing always felt like I got something wrong. So let's unpack that. What is fair difficulty after all? You see, fair difficulty doesn't mean easy. It means a game making sense, meaning fairness is when failure feels like it's your fault and success feels repeatable yet earned. On one hand, we can understand what's happening in Lies of P. Enemies are readable with telegraphed animations and deliberate windups for you to learn, and even the fastest enemies in the game have patterns for us to learn and adapt to. Even in Celeste, we see consistent mechanics that grow with us as we learn the game. That, paired with its instant revives, help the learning process progress as quickly as possible. No walkbacks here. As a result, in both Celeste and Lies of P, you have a clear guide of progression. Learning a level via a new mechanic or learning a new boss's pattern and behaviors in both may seem difficult, and at times the new challenge may even seem insurmountable, but completing the section makes it that much more rewarding. At the end of the day, you know it was all the effort you put into learning the map or encounter and, gaining the skill. Because no matter how insurmountable the Golden Feather or the King of Puppets may be, losing always felt like a skill issue. On the contrary, in Kingdom Hearts, we have bosses like Kingdom Hearts 1 Ursula, the Spellikin in Dream Drop Distance, any variation of Zigbar, Birth by Sleep Vanitas, and who can forget the iconic Demyx fight? And don't get me started on the secret bosses. In these fights throughout the series, which are cool and mechanically unique in their own right, we do see a pattern of difficulty spikes, unbalanced mob encounters, and overall clunky mechanics, controls, and that damned camera angle. And while Lies of P is guilty of some of these to a lesser extent, most of the time the harder difficulty comes from you dealing less damage, having less health, and just making it harder to level up. As a result, you have more of an artificial difficulty created in which you're not necessarily taught to get better, but to kind of just overlevel, pray for a good run, dom boss AI, or finding a way to just cheese the win. On the other hand, we have Lies of P, where we have more intuitive mechanics and a natural progression where the game always feels difficult, not because it's just throwing random skill checks, damage sponges, or irritating mob encounters at you, but because the game gradually scales the bosses and mobs not simply to the mechanics introduced throughout the game, but more so to where your skill should be at any given point. Again, this is my first real Souls-like, and one thing that I've heard and seen that distinguishes this game from other Souls-like games is the brutally punishing parrying system, which I thought Expedition 33 prepared me for. It did not. This parrying system is something that I honestly almost completely ignored until the fight against the eldest of the Black Rabbit Brotherhood. And that was when it clicked for me. And as a result, it took the game to the next level. All of a sudden, every boss and every encounter felt like a puzzle, or at times even like a rhythm game. Before the elder brother, I was kind of brute forcing my way through the game, bashing my head against my desk, especially against fallen Archbishop Andreas, where I just dodged around and prayed for success. But even then, each try felt like a slow climb where each step and perfectly timed dodge contributed to my eventual victory. But nothing quite topped the feeling of realizing that the eldest brother couldn't touch me since I had mastered his parry timing. And once I heard that first weapon break, I felt the click and never looked back. Now, that's not to say I had an easy time moving forward, because trust me, the game does not slow down either. Instead, this felt like a momentary reprieve between the Black Rabbit brothers and the White Lady. Oh shit, wait. Wrong White Lady. Sorry, I meant this White Lady. Okay, just kidding. She wasn't all too hard, but seriously, who on the production or development team thought naming this boss White Lady was a good idea? Anyways, I digress. There was another boss that to me was annoying as hell, but the next major challenge was the King of Puppets. Now, here things get, well, interesting. While still riding the high from the Black Rabbit Brotherhood, you encounter the most plot relevant boss in the game up until this point. The King of Puppets at first feels pretty easy. Similar to the elder brother, he has large sweeping attacks with easy to read windups. I personally beat him fairly quickly and celebrated until, yeah, the game completely changes everything on you. Up until now, there hasn't really been a small, speedy, and quite as unforgiving boss. Sure, we've had some human enemies and mini bosses. Even the aforementioned Black Rabbit Brotherhood included some annoying human enemies that were on the field, and how can we forget the ever iconic White Lady? But none have been quite as brutal or unrelenting with their combos, timings, and punishments as our dear boy Romeo. Here, the game reminded me again that I truly am worthless at this game and punished me for ever thinking I could make a cakewalk out of it, or for even thinking I was getting the hang of it. But this time, I was able to face the challenge head on, knowing that if I could take on that last boss, then there was no real reason I couldn't get past this one. And that was the mentality moving forward from the King of Puppets to the puppet devouring green monster to Luxatia, Simon Manus, the nameless puppet, and all the way up till Arlecchino. You get the point. After a certain point, Lies of P stopped feeling like a hard game and started to feel almost conversational, even like an equation at times. The game presents you with the challenge, you respond, and most of the time, your response is wrong. And that's okay, because instead of just relentlessly punishing you, the game talks you through that failure. And if you are paying attention, you adapt. You learn the steps, and eventually, you'll execute and overcome. You know, I think the biggest misconception about Lies of P, and one I definitely had going in, was that it would demand perfection. But it doesn't. It demands your attention, your understanding. You can't just brute force your way through it. Trust me, I tried. You can't just wait for the perfect run as it often felt throughout Kingdom Hearts. Every failure asks you to rethink what you're doing, and every success proves that you did. And to be clear, I do still think Kingdom Hearts is harder. However, Lies of P just feels better, more intuitive, and honestly, it feels more honest. Because as much as I love Kingdom Hearts, and believe me, I do, playing through the series was honestly the highlight of my 2025. But its best moments come from spectacle, from story, and from those big, unforgettable highs. But in Lies of P, the satisfaction comes from something else entirely. And once that clicked, it didn't feel like I was trying to beat the game. It felt like the game was trying to teach me how to win. And thank you all for watching. If you stuck through this long, I appreciate it. And if you enjoyed, please consider hitting that like and subscribe button. God, I never thought I'd be saying that. But seriously, I have a few more video ideas I'd like to make, so if you enjoyed and would like more, please hit those buttons, and if not, no worries at all. Additionally, if you'd like to see some of my unedited or unscripted content, I've streamed all these games and many more over on my Twitch. Link for that is in the description. Since beating Lies of P, I've also played Sekiro and I'm currently playing through the Cuphead DLC with my friend from over at Chelsea Blossom Games, and have much more planned. So please check me out there as well. But for now, thank you all for watching. Until next time, see ya.